Good morning, hello, good morning, and we're in June now. It's a lovely day. Let me close the windows. It gives us a bit of privacy, so we don't have to talk over the wind. How are you? I hope you're well. I'm well. I'm just on my way to work. It's Tuesday morning. It's a lovely Tuesday morning. I'm doing my usual hours, which is 9 till about 1:30. We work straight through. This is to fit in with having to drop off and pick up my grandchildren. I'm just going to do a quick video today because yesterday the government announced something which is another in a long line of stupidity that we have to put up with. Oh, I tell you what, I should cut in my video from yesterday because this massive great tractor came steaming along here yesterday. But yeah, so they've announced a ban on social media for the under 16s without really being able to define what social media means, or in advance of any real data on what harm that is caused, etc. But they are gasping, they are gagging for some sort of political win, the government, and they've picked a sort of a vulnerable group, the under 16s, the people who can't vote as usual, in the same way as the dental service needed to save money, and they did it by changing the rules in a way that disadvantaged the children who used to receive the service. And so this is all going to come into effect next spring. So it's got many of the hallmarks of a policy that's doomed to fail. But before I go into that in detail, I want you to try a thought experiment, okay? Supposing I was going to do something. Can be anything. Use your imagination. Anything. I was planning to do anything, but I was waiting for a signal to do that thing, right? Someone was going to send me a signal, and they're going to send me a signal over the internet. And you don't know what that signal is, but the person who's sending it to me does, and I do. So as a government, you're like, well, we need to have some visibility into this. We need to know what Angry's up to. Is he going to start making 5 videos a week? Is he going to cut his grass? We need to have some visibility. Obviously, it wouldn't be that. I mean, I'm talking about... But, I mean, for the purposes of this thought experiment, it could be anything. So this signal is going to be in the form of a message. And the message is going to be very, very simple. In fact, it's the simplest message you can send. It's going to contain one bit of information. In other words, it's either going to be a 0 or a 1. That's it. They're the only two options, 1 or 0. And the point is that the person who's sending the message and myself, we've agreed which means which. It's either 0 means do it and 1 means don't, or 1 means do it and 0 means don't. Anyway, we know, but obviously the government, the third party, the interceptor, the man in the middle doesn't know. Now, when the government years ago argued against, unbreakable encryption and saying that they need to have visibility to everything, it doesn't really matter. They can have completely visibility into that message. They can see whether it's a 1 or a 0. I don't mind if they see if it's a 1 or a 0. The point is that they can't work out whether it means that I'm going to do it or not. Because they don't know whether 1 means or 0 means do it or not. So that's a case where you've got complete visibility into something, and yet it does you no good. And I made this case to them when they were thinking of bringing in all these anti-encryption laws, that it doesn't matter to what extent the government pries on people, they can still have secrecy. at least to in principle, the fundamental rule is that they can still have secrecy. But the government doesn't take any notice of thought experiments, and they will have, I don't know, scanned my letter and shredded it or whatever, and no one's going to know that was my submission. Nobody, in their summary of the submissions, they didn't say. One bloke made a really good point about the fact that we can decrypt all the traffic in the world. It's not going to help us really, because we don't know what's been agreed between the originator and the recipient. So just bear that in mind, right? When you think that the government has now said it's going to ban social media for the under 16s. And what it's done is it's censorship, basically. Nobody's using the C word at the moment, but that's precisely what it is. It's just literally, it's censorship. A certain group of the population is not going to be allowed to access the internet in the same way as others are. Now, excuse me. I mean, there's a lot of problems that flow from this, but remember what I said. It's a political decision. It's not meritocratic. It's not an intellectual or academic decision. It's just the government, in particular the Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who's got a by-election coming up in 2 days, which may well result in the election of someone who's going to challenge him as leader, wants to be seen to be doing something, and he wants it to be fantastically popular. Well, the problem is that in their focus groups, when they've asked people, do you think it's a good idea to ban under 16s from social media, the answer has been overwhelmingly yes. I mean, high percentages, 80s, 70, 80%, etc., etc. And what they've done is they've gone around and they've talked to people about, what they think about their kids on social media. And, the parents, especially since they've had a fairly effective softening up campaign over the past 2 months, where, there's every media outlet has come up with a story saying that, and this is no exaggeration, that being on social media and the age of 16 is sort of comparable to smoking for young people, and there's a lot of stuff on there which is bad for their mental health. The plague of Generation Z, the mental health generation. So no wonder parents are broadly in favour. Now the problem with this country is everybody's broadly in favour of banning anything if it doesn't affect them. And we work on the basis on this country that everything is banned unless it's specifically allowed. Whereas other happier, more prosperous countries work in the opposite way, that everything is allowed unless it's banned. So this ban looks likely to go ahead. By go ahead, I don't mean, come into effect or necessarily achieve any of the objectives, so far as they've been set. But the way that they've done it is they've given the Facebook and YouTube and everything the opportunity to say, look, we are an adult-only service. So, okay, so you can't complain about porn on the service now, or anorexia websites and stuff, because we have, your government-approved age verification in place. So why should we bother about 12-year-olds or 13-year-olds getting hold of this? That's really down to perhaps the parents enabling it or whatever. And the other thing is that because they've listed a load of websites, other websites will spring up. And not only that, the existing websites. You're going to tell me that Facebook is going to suddenly give up the under 16 market? I don't think so, okay? A load of other websites. It'll be whack-a-mole. I'm sure even now people are thinking of, I'm going to start a website and eat Facebook's lunch because we won't be on the prescribed list. And that's not to mention the fact that any teenager with half a brain is going to be able to get around the restrictions by using a virtual private network, or VPN, which are totally legal and can, you don't have to give any details really to use one. And are essential, really, to businesses who want to get in touch with their headquarters and stuff like that, or do any sort of communication over the internet from countries where you can appear to be from another country. So any sort of attempt to do this will have to also include an attempt to try and stop people circumventing the UK regulations, which will only appear if the site thinks that you're in the UK, and if this, if the site thinks you're in France or somewhere, they won't ask. So we're talking about basically, when questioned, the government minister said, yes, well, we've already got age verification in place, so we can use that. When pressed, he said, well, if the age verification doesn't work, then we'll do facial identification. And then when he admitted that that's not bad for, not faultless, but it's not bad for people about 18 years old, but really doesn't work at all for 16-year-olds. He said, well, in that case, then they'll have to use some other form of identification, like a passport or identity card or something. So there you have it. You see, there it is. That's the government objective, really, is to get anyone who's on the internet to be using it, having furnished an identity card, so that they can be traced back. It's the same as like with voting. You go along and you vote, and you think you're voting anonymously, but in fact your vote can be traced. If the government wants to know how you voted, they can easily link your vote to you. So the government are, and I know we're going through a period of really, really stupid government and Fender regime in terms of the currency, but they're constantly coming up with new stupid things to do. And one of the stupid things that they did was try and phase out petrol and diesel cars. So now I'm driving a diesel car. It's done 121,000 miles. I'm sure it's given out less carbon than I've absorbed through the 200 trees that I've planted in my garden. So, I don't mind so much. And also the fact that, the tremendous amount of carbon that would need to be generated to make me a new car. The best way to cut down on carbon is to get people to drive their cars until the wheels fall off. And that's my philosophy with cars. I've got no self-respect. But the government has just said that it's not going to persist with this ridiculous target to have 70 or 80% of new cars by 2030. And that's because they set the target in the early 2020s, when 2030 seemed like a long way away. And now we're in 2026, halfway through. They're thinking this is not going to happen. And if it doesn't happen and it's still in place as a recommendation, we're going to look like idiots. And but They don't understand. They look like idiots when they did it in the first place. For anybody who's got half a brain, knew that it was always going to have to be watered down, that it was never achievable, like climate change targets. They're all conveniently at a minimum of 2 years away, because 2 years is the gullibility gap. It's the credibility gap. It's that you can tell anything that's going to happen in a couple of years' time, and they can't really say, well, that won't happen. That won't happen, because you've got 2 years to make it happen. So you can BS your way through life, saying that things. This is how Peter Schiff does it, the American financial advisor. He's like, oh well, we're going to have a sovereign debt crisis in the next 2 years. In the next 2 years, and then when you listen to him when you've listened to him for 10 years, you realise that that's his shtick. Everything is in 2 years' time. So now people like me who sort of hung on to their old diesel cars, and you're all right, he would have missed you, and didn't invest 30,000-40,000 pounds in a new electric car and another few thousand in a charging point at home, and I've spent nothing. I've spent nothing, literally. Are the winners in this, and that's not a good message, you know. It's the only credible message, which is that, you know, if you see the government do something stupid, you just have to wait them out, you know. As who was it? Sun Tzu said that if you just sit on the bank of the river, eventually the bodies of your enemies will float past. So I'm sitting on the bank. I'm sitting on the bank. And what's floating down the river? You wouldn't believe what's floating down the river. So we can have a bunch of, there's going to be the almighty tussle. The kids, I think, for the most part, whoever they've asked, they're pretty laid back about it. Because I think that they're a generation that knows that they're going to get around it, you know. Because they haven't banned things like Telegram or WhatsApp. And Telegram and WhatsApp are going to be more social, develop more social media features. And Facebook, I think, will argue that their messaging is just simple messaging, and therefore it should be unbanned, and there'll be challenges in the courts, and in the meantime, Starmer won't even be Prime Minister anymore. And I don't agree with their list. I mean, like YouTube, the inclusion of YouTube on that list, I think is outrageous. I think YouTube, I'm subscribed to very few digital services. I subscribe to Sky because Mrs. Angry likes Sky. But I don't subscribe to Sky Cinema or Sky Sports or anything. I do subscribe to YouTube because the adverts drive you bananas. As far as I'm concerned, I would rather watch 2 or 3 hours of YouTube in the evening rather than the dross that they serve up on UK TV. But YouTube is a fantastic resource in terms of factual stuff. I learn everything from YouTube. If I want to take a bumper off a car, there's a YouTube video on it. If I want to do if there's an in-depth, if I want to do an in-depth on Attila the Hun, there's People Profiles, I think it's called. They do fantastic, really, really, really easy to learn, interesting, relevant biographies of characters like Churchill or Cromwell or whatever. And that's indispensable. I'm so jealous of not being at school now. If I had had all this resource when I was at school, I'd have been a straight-A scholar. I'd have gone to Oxford or Cambridge and not dental school. I'd probably been head of the civil service by now. So what are we going to do? I mean, as I say, it's not. There's going to be a lot of resistance. There's going to be a lot of edge cases. We really do have to just hold out, just hold out long enough to for the bodies to come down the river. And this social media thing is just one of those things. And obviously my family asked me what I thought about it all, and I said it's the most stupid decision I've ever heard, and that if I'm in a position to help any of my grandchildren circumvent the regulations, then I will. My two daughters grew up around about the time that social media took off, and in those days it was like MSN, and they used to go strapped to their bedrooms and get on their computers in those days. It wasn't really on phones. And I used to say to them, who are you chatting to? Or, 3 hours. And they used to say, it's my friends from school. And I'm like, well, you've just come from school. You've just come from school. What's the point of coming home from school and then chatting to everybody from school? And they was like, oh, Dad, you don't understand. But I do understand. I understand that humans are... You want to go? No? Okay. Humans we're social monkeys, We are social. Being social is a very, very big part of our life. I don't think it affected them at all. In fact, I think it helped them. I think it made them better people. And putting, taking notice of focus groups of people whose children have committed suicide because they've seen something, or they say that they've seen something on chat. That's very sad. It's very sad. And I feel very sorry for them. But I don't think that they are the best people to have in these focus groups. I think we don't want a focus. We want a broad group, of society as a whole. All the polls I've seen, including like the Telegraph poll, the majority have said, I am a parent and I will regulate my own child's use. I mean, let's face it, at the end of the day, you give them a phone, you can't lock these phones down. You can lock these phones down. You can have parental controls. That's what they were invented for. You can ban TikTok and whatever on the phone if you want to. We do not need the government to come in and tell our children what to watch and how to brush their teeth and what food they can eat and stuff like that. That's the parents' responsibility. If you want your child to be brought up like a state, like a worker bee, then I'm sorry, but I don't mind if you follow state advice on everything, but don't ask me to. Don't force me to. It reminds me a bit of the furore over television. When the television was invented, and there was like, oh, it's not healthy for people to be stuck in front of the box, stuck in front of the box for 20, 30, 40 hours a week. And television is bad for you, And now we've got to the stage where a parent will complain about a child spending 20 hours on Facebook, say, when they themselves are spending 40 to 60 hours a week on telly. So anyway, that's my take on it. It's another grand projet, doomed to fail, and it'll take 2 or 3 years to fail, or be scaled back drastically, or challenged, or whatever. And people will, Starmer will get the reputation he deserves and always has deserved, as a bit of a dick, a bit of a stupid, an unintellectual person, good at organisation, good when he's given a brief, good at agendas and stuff like that, but not really a thinker, not really very quick up here, not a chess player. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. So don't say you weren't told. Don't say you weren't warned. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.